Remember when the ship crashed into the Baltimore Bridge?
There's three main categories that I think people should know about Bouvet Island.
Somebody explain to me what just happened.
Welcome back to the channel. Here we go.
Three flashlights here, a blue one, a green one, and a red one. And as you can see, when their beams all combine, you get white light. And if you take a piece of paper with a slit in it, and you block those beams, you can decompose that white light back into its constituent parts, red, green, and blue. Now this is something really cool. If you take something that casts a shadow, it's actually going to cast three: a cyan, a magenta, and a yellow shadow. And if I allow each of those shadows to pass over the slit, you're going to see that they block out only their complementary color.
One of my questions was that in the past I have trusted the wrong people, and as a result I've been betrayed.
Trusted them to do what?
Trusted that they had my best intentions.
Oh, all right.
And it turned out that they didn't.
Oh, all right. And now you can trust that they showed you exactly who they are.
Correct.
And so that worked for you. Because it allowed you to, again, by attracting what you don't prefer, to more clearly define what you do. And therefore they have helped you course correct. And therefore they have not in that sense betrayed you, but shown you more clarity about who you prefer to be. That's the positive way to look at that, so that you can gain a positive effect from the experience, rather than a negative one. Yes?
Yes, that's true.
I know, that's why I said it.
And in the present, I've noticed that there are some people that I have in my life, and I want to trust them, but I have some sort of anxiety.
You want to trust them to do what? Put your trust in yourself. Do you understand? And trust that whatever appears in your life is what needs to be there, and then get the reflection you need to get. Trust them to be who they choose to be at that moment, and learn from it, whatever expression it may be. Put your trust in yourself and your life and what it brings you as serving you in some way, shape, or form.
So why is it now that when the sun rises at 6:49 in Japan, the sun is still up in the West? And I figured this out by watching a live where the streamer was streaming from Japan. And the sun was high in the sky while she was on stream. The sun was also up in the sky where I was.
Check the sunset out, right? This sunset never touches the horizon. It stays on those clouds. I feel like that those clouds that he has over there in Hawaii are actually machines. Because look, once my filter pops up, you're going to see like rollers. Like the sun gets on the rollers, it starts moving on its own. You can tell too, because the other clouds don't move, but just that one part right here, right? It looks like an escalator in a way. It looks like an escalator in a way, like a ride. Like it stops and it starts moving. Look at that, dude. That's going up the fucking cloud, dude. That's definitely a fucking machine. Like that whole cloud system you showed me, all the videos look like that. I think they have a legit like a fucking cloud machine that I don't know, carries the sun around.
So here's a time lapse of the sun as it moves across the sky. As it gets to a point, it glitches. I'm not sure if you saw that, but if you didn't, don't worry. Let's bring it back so you can see what's going on. So as it moves along, it glitches. Pay attention. just happened is the sun is exchanging tracks. It's moving from one track to another. Yes, a track. The sun moves on tracks. So let me just show you some of the gears. So take a look at the 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock region just above the sun. They are the gears interlinking. There's a spiral forming around the sun projection, which is interlinking into the rest of the sky and moving the projection across the sky. Now here you can see the gears as they flow. You can see the mechanism happening. And as the sun moves, you can see it tilts to either side and gives you the angle. So now here's another example of the sun glitching as it exchanges tracks. A totally different bit of footage. As you can see, it comes down and it glitches. Now that's exchanging tracks. Same thing again. Very common. And there are multiple suns. Every region has its sun. There is one light source projecting light to each sun. Yeah? So our suns, the suns that we see, are all projections.
Can you give me an example of a food that's a vaccine?
You recognize? Yes, sir. University of California, Riverside has already perfected the ability to put human vaccines into our lettuce right now. Also, tomatoes has the ability to do that also for UC Berkeley. And then Big Tobacco, RJ Reynolds and stuff has perfected the ability to put a human vaccine into tobacco products.
Chairman Clements? And is that even legal to do in the state of Tennessee, to sell those with a vaccine in them?
You recognize? Well, I'm not arguing that point. What I'm saying is there is no law deeming those that when you go into a grocery store, you should know as a consumer, this head of lettuce is a head of lettuce. The head of lettuce right next to it could contain a vaccine in it. All we're saying is if it does have the vaccine in it, make sure it's listed as a pharmaceutical so people can get the proper dosage.
You recognize? Thank you. Well, my question is right now, can you walk into a grocery store and there be a head of lettuce for sale that has a vaccine in it? I don't think that's allowed under state law presently. And if it is, and you have to list it as a pharmaceutical, are we going to then have Walgreens pharmacists with a refrigerated section? I mean, how's this going to play out?
You recognize? Thank you. This is more of a consumer protection bill right here, is to make sure that if you...
Hey, it's Glamham. In my last post, thanks to a video by Minutes of Horror on YouTube, we learned that the blob had been here before, back in 2012, further north than Bouvet Island, but unmistakably similar. Well, check out that video, because today we're going to cover another strange anomaly that I haven't seen anyone else post about. One deep on the ocean floor. What we'll be looking at are scans of the ocean floor that have been acquired with a process called bathymetry, and it involves bouncing sound waves from a ship or vessel down to the ocean floor. The time it takes for the sound wave to bounce back determines the contours of the ocean floor. Of course, you know we're going to start out at Bouvet Island. Just to give a frame of reference, you can do this yourself. Look for this very distinct patterning and shape on the ocean floor. And if you zoom in, you can clearly see a right angle, definitely nothing organic and natural. I have measured this right angle against the scale, and it's at least 50 kilometers wide. Note this does not show up on Google Earth, only on USGS. What could this strange and unnatural formation be? Have we found Atlantis or a base? See you in the comments. Take care.
There's three main categories that I think people should know about Bouvet Island. So number one, there was this guy who happened to look at Bouvet Island earlier and he noticed that it wasn't labeled properly. So he thought this was strange. So he contacted one of his friends who happened to work at the Apple labeling for maps. And he said that this was an anomaly. All maps, all areas are usually labeled. And if this wasn't labeled, that it must have not been labeled on purpose. Number two, if you look at it on the maps, it's extremely pixelated. It's like somebody was purposely trying to cover that area up. There's no detail on the map. Number three is actually these images. And this is Bouvet Island over the months of this year, which has some weird tornado formations coming out of it. What's these weird kind of like vibrational looking things that are affecting the clouds? Here's another one. Here's another one. So what's interesting about this, bro, is that the scientists around are saying, oh, it's just an instrument anomaly. But then you overlay that with the satellite imagery and you start to see, well, no, there might be some weird kind of like sound artifact coming out of Bouvet Island.
The music business plays this Jedi mind trick on you where the whole thing's set up to be rapacious and take advantage of your weakness.
How so?
You struggle to get the contract, and then the contract is sort of, you know, the indentured servitude type of thing. Our first contract was 7 albums, essentially 14 years. So I signed that contract when I was 23.
That's crazy.
Okay, so I'm signing, at 23 years old, I'm signing a contract that's supposed to take me into 37.
You're signing a contract for more than half your life.
And if you look at the shelf life of most artists, it's 4 to... So they're basically anticipating your entire arc.
That's so crazy.
So you don't have any leverage, you know, other than that they want to sign you. You sign the deal, and then it becomes this weird dance of like, can I sustain success?
Yeah.
If you get success and you have leverage, they'll get out of your way because you're making them a lot of money. But the minute you're not making them as much money, then they step in and they start playing these Jedi mind tricks on you. We know what to do. You know, the public's going to forget about you. I mean, I've heard all these things. One thing they do with certain younger artists, but I think particularly more in the pop realm, is they do these 360 deals where it's like,
right,
if you get a perfume deal, if you, like your whole world,
they own you.
We own a piece of your whole world. And fame is such a great quotient in American life now that you can see where kids would trade fame and be willing to give away like the profit part. So if you actually survive the cut, let's call it phase 1. You're successful, you're a name, and now you're in a place to either renegotiate or your deal is up or whatever. I once had a conversation with a very powerful music executive, and I said, and I was friends with the guy, so I was like, give me the insider psychology here. Now that I know the game that you run, what do you tell people like me when they get here? And he says, oh, it's just, there's always a price. So they know that even if you get through the matrix of the whole thing and get out the other side, that there's just a dollar amount that will buy you back in.
Whoa.
They're not worried that you'll go independent. And in fact, if you look at a lot of the machinations of the music business over the last 20 years, especially with the rise of the internet, it's to keep people in the system.
Yes.
They don't want true independence. Look no further than the deals that the record labels cut with the streaming services. They got into ownership equity deals with the streaming services. In an arrangement for them to have an equity position, they agreed to very low rates for the artist's music. When you listen to Bob Dylan's song on Spotify, Bob Dylan's not getting a lot of money for that. So the labels pick out their own artists.
We're not going to sugarcoat anything anymore. We've been quiet long enough. Can I get an amen? Amen! All right. All right. Well, I'll put it to you this way. We are the biggest selling female group ever. 10 million albums worldwide. We have worked very hard. We have been in this business for 5 years. And we are broke as broke can be.
In his podcast appearances, Billy Corgan, frontman of the Smashing Pumpkins, provides candid insights into the music industry. He highlights the disparity in earnings, noting that record labels often profit more than artists who are eager for fame. Corgan discusses the challenges artists face, including signing lengthy contracts that may not benefit them financially. He also explores the impact of streaming services on artist compensation. Corgan touches upon the psychological impact of this imbalance, highlighting how artists may feel compelled to prioritize fame over their own well-being. This pressure to maintain success can lead to mental health challenges as artists grapple with the demands of the industry. Corgan's discussions shed light on the human side of the music business, prompting us to consider the toll it can take on artists' lives. Corgan's commentary reveals the harsh realities of the music business, where the allure of fame can overshadow financial considerations for artists. Could this dynamic lead to a shift in how artists approach their careers? Or will the pursuit of fame continue to dominate the industry?
This is going to blow your mind. Can you explain this?
In 1561, an unusual event occurred over Nuremberg. Witnesses reported seeing a vast array of objects in the sky, described as spheres, discs, and cylinders engaged in a battle-like formation. Some accounts mention smoke, fire, and strange colors, all being seen at this phenomenon. It lasted for about an hour, leaving many people bewildered and frightened. Despite various theories, the causes of the celestial event remain a mystery, sparking debates and fascination among historians and ufologists alike.
Okay, so this not only happened once in 1561, and this is the story, so I'm going to let you pause this and read this anytime. I'm not about to read it to you, so I don't want to bore anyone, but it's all there, and it's very interesting and very confusing. Like, if people actually saw what they're saying, what could be the explanation? And then I found out it didn't only happen once, but twice. Because look, there's another one, August 1566 in Basel, Switzerland, similar location, very similar to what they saw. What do you think?
London tourist scams. Even the safest and most loved city on the planet has a few mischievous tricks up its sleeve. Let's rattle through them now to warn any potential visitors. The first is an easy one. The rickshaws you see dotted around London. If you want to go on one, don't. If your partner wants to go on one, drag them away. Everyone here has a horror story of a friend who went on a 4-minute ride in one with the music blaring, taking a couple of selfies, only to be charged 80 quid when they get out at the other end. Apparently they have to display price lists now, but I wouldn't believe a number on it. They are a cartel. If you argue with one, you argue with all of them, and good luck with that. Next, we're on Westminster Bridge for a true scam of the old school, a real classic, the cup and ball games. They are organised gangs. Everybody you're seeing knows each other, but they pretend that they don't. They repeatedly act out the game like people are winning lots of money, and they stand there for ages holding wads of cash to lure in unsuspecting tourists. And eventually, some cocky but naive American tourist takes the bait, and bang, 4 minutes later, he's 200 quid down. They also really don't like being filmed, so let's move on. The flower trick, it's a rare one these days, but it used to be all the rage. Basically, if you're out in the West End and someone tries handing you a flower or a piece of heather, don't take it off them. They will accuse you of having bought it, and then when you try and hand it back, they start jumping up and down, getting excited, and you'll want everyone to stop looking at you, so you'll just pay the £5 or £10 or whatever it is they're asking. Next up, American candy stores. I've already done a post explaining their true purpose in the criminal underworld, and somehow I'm still here to tell the tale. I won't push it any further though, because I don't want to end up sleeping with the fishes tonight, but basically don't go near them. A lot of them are connected to organised crime. Not all of them, for legal reasons, not all of them. If someone comes over and talks to you in London, they are either scamming you, they are arresting you, or they are northern and haven't learnt our ways yet. If they are scamming you, don't be clever about it. Don't talk to them, just walk away. If they are arresting you, then yeah, sure. The Metropolitan Police occasionally make mistakes. Just answer their questions and be polite. They will hold you for anything from 2 minutes up to about 5 hours, depending on your skin colour. And if the person who's come over to talk to you is northern, then don't encourage them. They need to learn. It's like feeding the pigeons. Paying to use public toilets. Not all of them, but most. We're one of the richest cities on the planet, and we have to pay 20p if we want to take a piss. Come on, the revolution starts now, comrades. Enough of this. Do not buy beer or food from one of the cafes or kiosks in any of the royal parks. A more expensive way to drink and dine in London does not exist. The parks in London are a beautiful place, but unlike some of our Western allies, we don't have draconian laws around drinking in public, and they are surrounded by little grocery stores. So just go in, buy a cheap bottle of screw-top wine and a 4-pack of beer and a meal deal, go and lay out a blanket on the grass and crack on. Pickpockets. Not really scammers, more just a bunch of nuts, but there's a few of them about. Basically, don't walk around doing that thing of having your phone poking half out of your back pocket. Notable mentions for criminals with RFID scanners on the London Underground cloning your credit or debit cards. Everything is contactless here and they can see where you keep them when you go through the barriers. And paying over the odds for West End shows with illegal ticket touts. They're not really about anymore, but do your research before you come. This last one's going to get me in trouble, hence why it's in at the end, but London cabs, black taxis. Technology and the market has moved on. You no longer need to spend £30 to nip up the road. There's bikes, buses, the night tube, all sorts. I know they don't set their own prices and they're going to get annoyed and say how convenient they are, but the bottom line is they are a ridiculously expensive way to get around the city. You can't argue with that.
Hey, want to learn about systems thinking with me? I am currently reading this book, Thinking in Systems by Donella H. Meadows, and you should go and read it. But while I've got you, I'm going to share some fun stuff that I've come across in this book already. If a frog turns left and catches a fly, and then it turns right and it catches a fly, and then it turns backwards and it catches a fly, we can presume that this frog's purpose is nothing to do with turning left or right or backwards, but to do with catching flies. If a government states that its purpose is to, pulling an example out of thin air, save the NHS, and then it actually allocates very little time, money, resources, or effort towards that goal, then we can deduce that that is not the government's purpose. Purpose is deduced and defined by behaviour, not by rhetoric or stated goals. The purpose of a thermostat system is to maintain a building at a steady temperature. One of the purposes of a plant is to bear seeds and therefore produce more plants. The purpose of a national economy, judging based on its behaviour, is to keep growing larger. In almost every system, an important function of that system is its own perpetuation, its own continuation, its own survival. Now, when we talk about changing systems, often we talk about changing elements of that system. But even if you change every player on a football team, it's still recognisably a football team. Now, they may play significantly better or worse, but you're still playing football. Your body replaces its cells all the time, but it's still recognisably your body. So what are some more drastic ways that we can change systems? Well, one of those ways would be changing the interconnections, the relationships. Say we change the rules of the game. We change it from the rules of football to the rules of basketball. Even though you've technically not changed any of the players, you're playing a whole new ball game. If we take a tree, for example, and we change the interconnections there, an example of that would be changing carbon dioxide into oxygen. Say we change that into oxygen into carbon dioxide. Suddenly you've not got a tree anymore. You've got an animal. How about this time, instead of changing elements or relationships, we change the purpose? You keep the players of the football game, you keep the rules, but the purpose changes from winning to losing. We change the purpose of the tree from surviving and reproducing to sucking up all the nutrients in the soil and growing to an unlimited size. A change in purpose is one of the most profound ways that you can change a system. I wonder what else this could be applied to.
Men can get pregnant?
Yes, the numbers just keep going up.
Are you sure? Because I've never seen a pregnant man.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Seriously?
I'm the expert here.
I just assumed only women gave birth.
I'm not sure what you mean.
You must be joking.
You're telling me that a man can get pregnant?
Yes, of course they can.
That's incredible.
Senator, you got something on your cheek.
Professor, are you qualified to be here today?
I have a degree.
How can a man get pregnant?
Well, I'm not a biologist, Senator.
When a man rushes into the hospital, about to give birth, butthole does his baby come out?
What hole do you think?
I'm confused.
It's most commonly called a rectal birth.
Are you talking about butt babies?
In some places, it's called rearing a child.
I wasn't aware of any of this.
Most infants born via the rectal canal are normal.
Oh.
Sadly, a few are born bass-ackward.
People who exposed the truth.
They were doing a lot of what looked like cloning with children. And if you look back at the 1901 incubators...
Coney Island. I remember this now. Yep.
They had the stuff on where they had the incubators, and they were showing all these children, and they said they were all premature, which was interesting. Every single child was premature, but they had just thousands and thousands of these children. So, you sit there and wonder, well, where were all these babies being born from? Where were they coming from? And then you kind of sit there and think back, well, 1901, they could have been cloning. And then now they're saying, we can maybe maybe finally do it, but this technology's been around for a very long time.
I'd never even thought about that. And we had covered, it was one of those nights that I did a Did You Know section. And we were talking about all the incubator babies from Coney Island. They were pretty much on display. Like they were put in street level windows. It was almost like going to a puppy mill. It was incredible. And never once did cloning ever cross my mind until right now.
If you really went to the moon and spent $200 billion, you would never destroy the technology. But one of the clips we have is them saying that they intentionally destroyed all of the equipment to go to the moon. All the diagrams, all the hardware, all the schematics, all the original telemetry of where the rocket was at the time, and all the original videotapes. Ron Howard's grandfather warned him the moon landings were fake. He didn't listen. He wanted to make an IMAX movie. He went to NASA, said, give me all the originals so I can transfer it to HD, and projected at 120 feet wide. They said, give us a couple of days. And in those days, they lost every single original videotape from every single Apollo mission. Now, if you really went to the moon and spent $200 billion, the last thing you would do is destroy that technology. But if you perpetrated a fraud, that's exactly what you would do.
Take a look at this.
We have been led to believe that the sun goes down below a horizon as we roll away from it on our spinning ball Earth. When we allow ourselves to question, challenge, or even try to confirm our beliefs with real-life observations, we allow ourselves to see what we really see, even if we cannot understand it. And perhaps we are not supposed to understand it. And that is the point of watching a sun travel away from us, getting smaller and smaller, and becoming a speck on the horizon, beyond the band of convergence. The sun appears to be exactly where we see it.
Forget it, Bart. It's so bright out you can't see anything in the sky except the Fox satellite.
Now, I did not say that little lights can't go across the sky. They exist. I said orbiting metal expensive satellites don't exist. It's a scam on you and on me. Go ahead and try and prove satellites exist. You won't and you can't.
What we're calling satellite communication is landline communication. Most of the world's communication systems are land-based. That is a fact. And that shouldn't be a fact if satellites are real, okay? None of the stuff we use in our world today require the use of a satellite, all right? Keyword, ground-based. I know that this satellite program is straight bogus and that the billions of money that they're getting from us in taxes is being used to turn around and deceive us. Why you keep building these towers if we're paying for satellites? Any way they could exist is to hover above a certain height above the flat plane Earth and they would be stationary.
Captain thinks the world is round, see? But we all know it's a flat, right?
Of course it's flat. Sure, I know the world is flat.
Well, so do I. Everybody knows that. Good, good. Then you're on our side. We're gonna take over the boat, throw Columbus in chains, and head for home. Good idea.
The words Google Flat Earth were found carved into the Riverside Hill in letters that were 10 feet long.
The world is flat?
The world is flat.
Not debatable, it's flat.
The world is flat.
The Earth 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 is flat.
Whoa, is flat.
The world is flat like a son of a bitch.
You're giving us a lot to process.
True or false? The Earth is round. False. Can you please explain your answer?
It hasn't been proven.
No, why do you believe you live on a globe? What was your reason?
Yes, because I've been told. That's right. Prove it. Without using NASA or any other space agency.
The Earth is flat.
I don't see any curvature. Curvature. I mean, it's definitely not curving down. If anything, the horizon is rising to meet our eye line.
Remember, this is for entertainment and satire purposes only.
Hey, if you're still here, please do me a favor and hit the like and subscribe button so this video gets recommended to other people. Thanks.
Somebody explain to me what just happened. What did I just record here? Ready? Right now. Okay. Yeah. It's on my other video, but I made it shorter for this one. Somebody explain that.
Today I managed to catch the moment where sun exposes itself. This is in the UK right before the 8 p.m. And the reason why I was recording the sun is because prior to this I have noticed light flashes like a glitch. You know when your light bulb is about to go and it's flashing wild. That's exactly what I have seen, and I immediately thought, let me see if it's flashing with my camera, because you can't see anything around the sun with a naked eye, it's just too bright, and when you use a camera you can see more clearly. And then I've seen the sun revealing itself from behind. I am glad I got this moment because when I take a photo, few people claim is not real and edited. The problem is that when I put such photo through the edition, it would reveal even more weird stuff. Like for example this view, which makes zero sense to me right now. I actually encourage those who find it hard to believe to try record this by themselves. If you are open-minded and just want to prove it to yourself, why not give it a go?
The people who designed the system thousands of years ago realized that there's two of you. There's the one that your mother gave birth to, that God created, so to speak. Even your father and your mother have no idea what you're thinking or what you will do. You don't even know. They have no control over you, your flesh and blood self. But somebody has to control this show. There is no law on the books anywhere in this country that applies to you as an individual creature. The ancient Phoenician Canaanites developed a system by which they would assign to every person a second you. There is no law that applies to you personally, so the system has made each one of you a corporation. How now do you distinguish which one, when someone's addressing you, that they're addressing you as the one that your mother gave birth to, or the corporate you? According to British law, when you sign your name, upper and lower case, that is applying to your body. There is no law that can be applied to an upper and lower case name. Therefore, every piece of important bills, insurance, driver's license, identification, taxes, by law, international maritime admiralty banking law, your name must appear in all capital letters. You will never get a bill or anything that has your name upper and lower case, because there is no law that applies to an upper and lower case name, period.
If you are looking for the hidden knowledge, if you want to find out who runs the world, what is the true meaning of the symbols, who controls the money, the politics, and almost every facet of life without you knowing a thing about it, this ebook will literally unveil that to you.
There is an amazing place in Austria called Green Lake. From August to April, the area is a green garden. In the spring, the water level in the lake rises sharply due to the melting of snow and the ice rivers in the mountains, so the deep water immerses this scenic area at a height of 4 to 5 meters every year.
I love this thing. This is a 1700-year-old dodecahedron. I have found about 130 of these things scattered throughout Europe, but no one knows what they are or why the ancient Romans made them. I'm not saying it was aliens. They've all been found in pretty good shape, so they weren't tools or toys because there's no wear and tear. They weren't measuring devices because they come in different sizes, and they have high quality casting, so they were important and probably expensive. But no one talked about them. The Romans never mentioned them or wrote it down. Mathematically speaking, dodecahedrons, pretty interesting. They are 12 sides, each being a pentagon, and are one of the 5 platonic solids. So all of the sides are the same shape, like all squares or all triangles, not something like this. And every corner looks the same. So a cube is a platonic solid. A pyramid in Egypt, not. There can only be 5 platonic solids because of how angles work in our third dimensional space. And while you might think a dodecahedron is special because of this, and maybe that's why the Romans made so many of them, it's not even the biggest platonic solid. So why were the Romans building these and not one of the others? Guesses range from magic to religion, to rituals, to a rogue company in ancient Rome making them to troll us later. I just love how weird they are, and that we'll probably never figure out what they are.
Walter Russell, the greatest genius of the 20th century, was able to violate many reified concepts of man falsely termed laws by science. He was able to produce over-unity technologies capable of amplifying a small amount of electricity into extraordinary heat and power. He successfully performed low-temperature, low-energy atomic transformation, turning one element into another. And he discovered a holistic way of looking at our universe that anyone can understand. And when he wasn't busy solving the mysteries of our universe, he painted, sculpted, played and created music, trained and rode horses, drew the children of the most famous people in America, designed and built architecture, and of course hung out with Nikola Tesla and Mark Twain. I bet you'd never heard of Walter Russell before. Why don't we know about someone who was so influential? Well, it's pretty simple. Conventional science is a religion based on reductionism and scarcity. The wealthy elite of this world use it as a tool to beat down and control us. Russell taught that we cannot die and that everything in the physical world is consciousness experiencing itself through sex, and that most of the laws of physics are just bullshit dreamed up by mathematicians that can be totally violated up, down, left, right, and center and then stomped on for good measure. The wealthy controllers of this world weren't too happy with Walter Russell because their power rested upon a foundation of fear, scarcity, and limitation. So they obscured his work with that of people who never really achieved much of anything positive for humanity.
Okay, let's play it.
Van Allen radiation belts. Understand, too, that only about 20 seconds of this raw footage was ever broadcast to the public, and these conversations discussing their deception were believed to be private. Until now. Here they discuss that these television transmissions were in fact not broadcast live as everyone believed. They were first screened and edited for playback later.
Roger, Neil. We just wanted a narrative such that we can, when we get to playback, we can sort of correlate what we're seeing. Thank you very much.
Here they discuss the fact that they have turned out the lights and have blocked out sunlight from entering the spacecraft through the other windows as to not cause any reflected light to fall.
So that's really the window of the spacecraft.
Right, let it talk though.
Well, we shut out the sun coming in some of the other windows into the spacecraft, so it's looking through the number 1 window, and there isn't any reflected light.
The reason this was done is so that the truth of the matter would not be revealed. It is this. Though the federal government would have you believe that this is a view of Earth from a distance out of the spacecraft's window as it nears the moon, it is not. What they have ingeniously done is placed the camera at the back of the spacecraft and centered the lens on a circular window in the foreground, outside of which it is completely filled with the Earth in low orbit. The circumference of the window then appears to be the diameter of the Earth at a distance, with the darkened walls of the spacecraft appearing to be the blackness of space around it. That is why they wanted the interior dark and blocked out the sun from entering through the other windows. Here you can see the extruded window, probably 2 inches thick at the bottom. This is because the Earth's shine is coming in at a downward angle. It also causes the Earth to appear to be an irregularly shaped circle, for you are seeing the outside of the window at the bottom and the inside of the window at the top, which together form 2 different sized halves of a circle. Subsequently, this take was never used. As they perfected the shot, a crescent-shaped piece of black material was inset slightly into the window to create the illusion of the Earth's terminator line dividing night and day. It is uncannily convincing. During this segment, intended to be edited and played back later for the worldwide television audience, dated July 18th, 1969, Neil Armstrong condemns himself as he states that he is 130,000 miles out, or halfway to the moon, as the NASA flight log also states on this date. when he is, in reality, in low Earth orbit of a few hundred miles.
Roger, Houston, Apollo 11. Calling in from about 130,000 miles out.
Here, during another segment, also intended to air after review, Neil Armstrong falsely explains to the viewers how the shot is attained by putting the camera's lens to the window's glass, as it would have to be if they were the claimed distance away from the Earth.
We only have one window that has a view of the Earth, and it's filled up with the TV camera.
If the window was completely filled up with a TV camera, as he stated, then an astronaut's arm would not be able to get between the camera and the window, as it obviously does here in this outtake.
South America becomes invisible just off beyond the Terminator or inside the shadow.
You can also notice how the astronaut operating the camera reacted to the mistake by attempting to pan away from it.
Blue cast. See white bands of major cloud formations across the Earth.
This is a segment that they believed wasn't even being recorded.
Keep going.
Much less suitable for broadcast, for the lens was being zoomed out and the scene was being changed to that of an interior of the astronauts at work, and apparently the stop button popped back up on the recorder without notice. Here is the diffused work light that they used to see camera controls, but not throw light onto the spacecraft's wall. Here they remove part of the crescent insert. Finally, the iris is opened up and you can see the real location of the camera and the very bright and near Earth out the window. Here is the slate for the 19th of July.
Okay.
Yeah, if
so
you go
here's what I would say if I was trying to counter what you're saying. All right. The Earth at 130,000 miles out is halfway to the moon. The moon is 1/4 the size of Earth. The moon, on a full moon, is fairly bright. I mean, you could walk around outside in the dark. I mean, it's pretty amazing how bright it is when it's a full moon. Imagine that 4 times greater and twice as close. So the Earth, which has blue reflective light because of the oceans, and it's glorious. It glows in the sky. You would imagine that if you were filming Earth from 130,000 miles out, you would have to blacken the insides of the walls, and you probably couldn't get the camera any closer to that window in reality, even by saying it's in front of the window, it's covering the window. You're talking, I mean, it probably doesn't even fit any closer than that with all the instrumentation. If you were filming it specifically to try to get an image of the Earth and what it looked like at 130,000 miles out, would it even look that small? I don't think it would. It would probably look a lot larger. So if they're shooting it through this window and the light is probably pretty intense, it might be the only way to film the Earth with the kind of cameras that they had back then would be to do it that way, to block out everything in the room and to film it through that circular window as close as they can get that camera to. And it's just shitty footage of something that they eventually figured out how to do right so that it wasn't deception.
Well, the camera's at the back of the spacecraft,
Right.
and that's the circular window, and it's filled with the Earth.
Right.
If they were halfway to the moon and the Earth was at the window, the Earth would be a tiny dot.
It wouldn't be that
out
small.
That window.
No,
I
but
mean,
it wouldn't. But stop. It wouldn't be that small because the moon's not that small. You got to think about how big the moon is, okay? And the moon is 1/4 the size of Earth. Think about how close the moon is. So the moon is a big ass fucking thing, right?
So let me ask you this, Joe. Do you think the moon landings are real or not?
I'm not saying that. What
Okay,
I'm
but
saying
wait a
to
minute.
you,
I just want to know what you
because
think. What do you think?
I'm going to go at this. I'm just going to try to ask the most logical questions to refute what you're saying without giving an opinion. I'll give you an opinion eventually. But this right now is, if you were going to film the Earth from 130,000 miles out, and the Earth is 4 times larger than the moon, and you're halfway to the moon, I would imagine it would fill up that window. You wouldn't, the difference between that and low Earth orbit, I'm sure there's a difference, but I still think from that small window, it might be the whole window filled with Earth. That might be what you get.
Well, that's not the opinion of myself as a filmmaker and 3 other filmmakers who, for a living, our job is to make fake scenes look real. And so we all conclude that that's the window that they have made a mock-up of a 1-foot model to pretend.
But is there an image of that mock-up? I never saw a mock-up. I didn't. There's all
well,
you
saw
see
them
is,
fiddle around in the window.
You definitely see them fiddle around in the window.
And the camera, they lied about the camera being up against the glass. The camera is obviously at the back of the spacecraft to create that illusion.
They said the window is filled with the camera. That's what they said.
But it's not. It's at the very back of the spacecraft. The lights come up on the part they didn't intend on showing, and the camera has been at the back of the spacecraft all the time.
Right.
They had to lie. If they really were halfway to the moon, the only way they could film this shot would be to put the lens at the glass of the window. But it's a fake shot. And part of the faking is the camera's really at the back of the spacecraft. All the lights are off. Part of the Earth is outside of a circular window, and it looks cleverly like the Earth floating in space, but that's really the window from Earth orbit.
The idea that you should take care of your needs before your wants is fundamentally flawed, because your needs come out of your wants, not the other way around. If you want to survive, then you need food, water, clothing, and shelter. If you don't want to survive, you don't need those things. If you want to be healthy and attractive, then you need to work out and eat good food. If you don't care about looks or health, then you don't need to do those things. The conversation around needs and wants gets confused because people assume that everybody wants the same things, and they don't. And if you want to figure out what you need, then you need to figure out what you actually want. Because you don't know what you need until you know what you want. Desire is the fundamental structure your entire life is built on. If you want to tap into the personal power that comes from understanding what you want, then go to the link in my bio and check out the book that I wrote that will help you do this.
They're not aliens. They've always been here. There are forces that are not human, that do exist in a spiritual realm of some kind, that we cannot see, and that when you think about it, sort of make you think we live in an ant farm. That is real, okay?
The thing that struck me most about the interview is that Carlson is saying, I kind of got what's going on, and I don't want to know anymore.
And I've actually stopped gathering string on, as we say in reporting, stopped gathering string in this, gathering information, because I'm satisfied that I know enough, and I don't really want to know that much more.
Excuse me, you're a bloody journalist. You're supposed to be now an alternative journalist. Of course you want to know. What's the first thing, if you were a proper journalist and you came across this information, what's the first thing you'd do? You'd look at who's been saying this, in my case since the 1990s, and you'd say, hey, you come on my show with its massive audience, tell us what you found. What's your view of what's going on? That's what you do. But it doesn't happen, as it doesn't happen with Rogan either. There has to be a reason for that. One of the things that I've been pointing out over the decades is how if you look at religions and if you look at ancient cultures and tribal legends and accounts, there is an absolute common theme between them.
Yep.
And that is that a non-human force operating from the hidden is manipulating human society. It's a very compelling, coordinated agreement between what is otherwise a disparate group of different groups and beliefs. Carlson, in this interview, is acknowledging that. It would be nice, actually, if any of them that speak about this in a mild way, acknowledge the guy who's been saying this since 1996 and taken untold shit and abuse and ridicule for saying it.
Remember when the ship crashed into the Baltimore Bridge? Why on earth is a crew still on it? 21 people. For the last 2 months, and their phones are confiscated. Make this make sense. The day after the bridge collapsed, suspiciously, Biden came out and said, no investigation necessary. The U.S. government will pay for the bridge. Shortly thereafter, the insurance company came out and said, we'll pay out too. In what world does the U.S. government and insurance company pay out immediately without an investigation? Nothing to see here. Don't go digging around. Maui is still dealing with the debris removal and fighting with insurance companies 10 months later. But the bridge? No problem. Let's just pay it out. And then, now we find out that the 21 members of the crew are stuck on the ship, not allowed to leave, trapped, and their phones have been confiscated. Why are they prisoners? The news says they can't leave the ship because of visa restrictions. What? We let ungodly amount of people through the border without visas, but now it's a problem? The conspiracy theorists said cyber attack. Government quickly said accident. What's really going on here?
I know that Dave when Dave was visited, and that's up for him to tell that story. And that was my first real, like, what do you mean you were visited? And nobody talks about that. Everyone thinks he just ran away to Africa, and, the man was offered $50 million. With the Dave thing, I'd be a blatant liar if I were to say 100% that's him.
Okay, perfect.
Because our communication ended. And when I say our communication, he stopped communicating with me when he came back. When I say came back, I'm not talking about from Africa, because the first thing he did was go on Oprah, which I find fascinating. And I highly suggest people really watch that interview intently. And I sobbed. I fucking sobbed. Because I hope it's him. But I will say, when he came back bigger, and I thought, all right, maybe he did steroids, maybe he worked out like crazy. I know he was very self-conscious being skinny his whole life. And our communication ended. Now, I had a bizarre FaceTime thing, which, again, I think is very sketch. Even the person that, there was this, I'll just leave it this. I don't know. The Dave Chappelle I knew.
Right.
He was an incredible mentor and human being to be around. Because when we started filming Half Baked, what I learned more was not the movie and all that. That's nothing. The long conversations and deep spiritual, who controls the world? Why are agents in the industry called agents?
Right.
And why are they all from a certain descent? Why? And there's nothing wrong. They were just questions like, that is interesting. Why do they all?
Alright, I hope you enjoyed this session. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Thanks again for showing up, everyone, and I will see you around.